played the clip if new listeners just joined us on XM or however they're listening, that Terrence Duffy, the head of the CME, saw the money come up missing, had a meeting on the phone with the executives, and they said Mr. Corzine ordered it and authorized segregated accounts. That's been on record for almost 4 months. We know earlier, Corzine said he never even knew money was transferred, period. He's been caught perjuring himself, and now the corporate whore media is trying to dance around this so their readers don't know that they're just as complicit as Corzine in all of this criminality. And what these idiots don't get is that nobody's safe if he doesn't get punished. If they're allowed to start stealing this nakedly, nobody's money and nobody's property safe. Confidence is going to be lost. Why would they risk the system like this at this point then? You got me fired up now, Gerald. Why would they do that? Because they know more of it's coming and they're testing things right now. You got it. This thing is collapsing in front of everybody. Look what's going on over there in Europe with that Draghi. Oh, excuse me. Maybe he's the Honorable Draghi. He's the head of the European Central Bank. You got to put names in front of their names, you know. And what did he do? He just dumped in 1.3 trillion euros for the banks to borrow at very low, like 1% interest rates. Actually can make money on it by putting it back in the bank. They make another 25% when they hold it to buy out these crappy bonds. Oh, and by the way, they don't have to pay back the money in 3 years. Oh, and where's Draghi from? Son of a gun. Wasn't he the vice chairman of Goldman Sachs, the European division? The federal regulators are all former Goldman Sachs. I mean, it's just a literal organized crime syndicate running around robbing everyone. And now, oh, have you heard they want UN immunity now in the brokerage firms? If they hold any carbon credit businesses, all of their business is to now have global government diplomatic immunity. Fox News, Gerald. Yeah, again. And going right back to the Goldman, to the JP, the MF Global one. I mean, who's this guy BSing? They needed $200 million. What did they get? Where did they come up with the money? They only could come up with it from one place. Again, like I said, sure, you don't need Sherlock Holmes on this case. But anyway, going back to Europe and the whole system collapsing, all they did was paper over it temporarily. They gave these banks the money to buy those crappy bonds that aren't worth anything in Ireland, in Spain, in Portugal, in Italy, in Greece, and anywhere else. When does it blow? Hungary is the whole thing is collapsing. Let's jam in a few final calls here because we've got to get to them. Callers, please, just one quick question for Gerald. He's got to go, and our next guest is coming up. Mojo in Illinois, you're on the air with Gerald Celente.
Hey, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Well, I wanted to speak to the director of T's and C's. I have a question for Gerald. What do you think about all of these banker resignations all over the globe that is being tracked?
Great question. Hundreds are resigning.
I'll give you one that could even top that. One of the top guys is resigning from the CME group. That's right. Hardly made the news. And this guy Duffy, they're covering themselves. That's all this is about. This thing is collapsing. And I'll tell you, man, if you want to know a good entrepreneurial opportunity in the years to come, guillotines really might be a big business. That's why they're getting out, because they know the people are angry. These aren't bankers. Let's go through the proper language. They're money changers. They're loan sharks.
They're fraudsters.
They're fraudsters.
I mean, in fact, the head of the Texas Banking Commission went public and said, these banking rules let 6 mega criminal groups come in and take us over who are engaged in real banking. I mean, that's what all the nouveau riche and even billionaires need to get. This small group of banksters wants to destroy you. It's us or them. They're crazy. I mean, look at Corzine making 40-to-1 bets. Now they're trying to muscle the Russians and the Chinese. Folks, they're not going to back off. Do you understand that? The Russians never back off. Don't people understand that these bankers are fat on our blood and think that the whole world's going to act like fat, dumb Americans and roll over to tyranny? It isn't going to happen. They're going to start a nuclear war. They've all got to go to jail now. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Carl in Oregon, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Carlo from Oregon.
Hey, go ahead, sir.
Hello. Hello, old friend. Geraldo, my paisano. I love your charisma. I just love it.
We're almost out of time, sir. It says Carl on the screen. Carlo, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. It is Carl, but I'm part Italian for my
That's
mom's
wonderful.
side.
We got to move, though. I know callers like to correct me on names and stuff. Just please, sir.
Okay. I have 20 G's in Scottrade of fiat currency. Should I just pull an exit stage left or what?
Oh, I can't give you that kind of advice. I'm not permitted to. By law, so I can't say anything on that.
What would you do, Gerald? I mean, what are you doing?
I make it really clear. I told you what happened with me with HSBC. When I went to take out a large withdrawal, I called them up the day before, told them what time I was coming, and then we called them back. I couldn't make it. We gave them another time. I went there. They wanted me to speak to the manager. I sat down, and the manager said to me, Mr. Celente, this is a sizable withdrawal. What are you going to do with the money? And I said, none of your business. And she said, that's no way to start a conversation. I said, how about none of your damn business? And it went on from there. 40 minutes later, I got my money. I had a fight with Key Bank right around the corner over here. Twice. They don't want you to take the money out of the bank because they're using it just like John the Slime Corzine used it to cover their bad bets.
Incredible.
That's
Listen, Carl.
all it is.
Carl wasn't trying to snap at you. I appreciate you listening. I'm just really upset about what's happening and trying to get all these callers in before he's got to go. We got a minute and a half left. Then we're coming back with the one, the only Webster Tarpley with key info, tarpley.net. Shane in Illinois, last caller. Go ahead.
How's it going, guys? First time caller. I try to make it quick here. Mr. Gerald Celente, do you think, or what if this whole Corzine MF Global scandal is just the Trojan horse for them to see if they can get away with it and start taking other people's accounts?
That's Alex. That's what Alex is saying. That's what I agree. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't own your money unless you have it. End of story. That is the way I look at it. And that's the way, and this MF Global thing, I believe, as Alex does, it's just testing the grounds to see how much they could get away with and how much they could steal from you.
That's it. Caller, anything else?
I was watching the clip earlier and it looked like Corzine got caught stealing from a candy store when he was like 5. He was scared, like he was going to get arrested or something. He knows that.
Well, we're going to get Kaiser on later in the week. They say that the head of not Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, called him up and said, look, you're dead unless you give me that money. I mean, that's how these guys operate. They're the real gangsters.
Alex, again, it's as old as the Bible. The only time the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, becomes violent is when he drives the money changers out of the temple. So as I say, if the Prince of Peace could become violent, I could become angry for John the Slime Corzine and his mouthpiece, little Goldberg, trying to cover for him as they steal my money. And if people don't like it and they don't want to speak up and fight back, hey, all aboard.
Trends Research.
Straight to Auschwitz.
Trendsresearch.com, Infowars.com. Gerald, great job. God bless you. We'll be right back with Webster Tarpley.
You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep...
Webster Griffin Tarpley is our guest. We're getting him lined up to go on air with us here. And there's so much that I want to discuss with him today in the time we have. So much that's happening in the media and in our world. But Webster doesn't even know what I'm going to ask him here up front. But I want his take on this before we get into Libya, Uganda, Syria, what's happening domestically. What do you make of the Trayvon James thing? Because that's the biggest story in the country right now. And turns out that Mr. Zimmerman has these black friends coming out and defending him. Turns out witnesses told police, and this was never released in the report, that James, Trayvon Martin was on top of him, punching him in the face. I'm not taking sides in this, but it looks like one of these manufactured diversions, and it looks like Obama, because you were the first to talk about this 4 years ago. You've written 3 books on it, but I know in one of them you talk about Odinga when he didn't win the election in Kenya. And all of this was going on, that he told and the letter's public. He told Odinga to cause riots and interstripe between Christian blacks and Muslim blacks as a way to try to force his way into some type of government position. They created a prime ministership for him. My gut tells me this is like a beta test, so they can use the Trayvon Martin situation with the George Zimmerman situation as a way to beta test some type of race war, limited outbreak, so that Obama has an excuse to declare an emergency. Do you think that's in left field?
Well, let me say, first of all, Alex, I think that in general, in terms of the big issues, the movement of people who are protesting, right, even people that one doesn't need to agree with, right, from the Jesse Jacksons to the Al Sharptons, whatever they are right that there is a lot of institutionalized racism in police departments, that there's a double standard, that black suspects are treated differently. I would also go on to say that this stand your ground law in Florida seems to me to be a legal monstrosity that makes absolutely no sense, seems to be designed to produce more violent crime rather than less, seems to have had that effect. But then when we get down to the level of the individual facts in this case, I think it's much less clear. And I have also seen a local television report of someone who says that he's an eyewitness, if that's true, that there was an altercation between these two people, and indeed that Trayvon was supposedly punching Zimmerman. So I think that simply is not clear cut at this point. So I really can't comment on who's right and who's wrong in that immediate sense. The idea that Zimmerman goes from being, I think, a Hispanic, which is what he is, to being just white is also a somewhat strange leap. But certainly the media handling of this, there's absolutely no doubt. This is the kind of incident that the media were waiting for, so that they could begin to foment a kind of artificial racial tension looking forward to the Obama re-election campaign. And concerning the opportunism, in that sense, there's no doubt. On the other hand, again, the complicating factor is that people who are making a big issue out of this are actually pointing to something real, the double standard, the racism, the monstrosity of these stand your ground laws, but at the same time, they're doing it for the wrong reason. In other words, they're doing it as for a partisan political cause. So all in all, a somewhat murky kind of situation, not clear cut. And I have no, I am not going to choose one side or the other in this, because I think
exactly. But with the Trayvon Martin situation, with the George Zimmerman situation, it's got all the markers of the media trying to play the American people off against each other. And then when you've got real cases of, police shooting a black guy in the back who's in handcuffs and lying about it, then when people protest, the media says it's bad. But when they can just say it's a white guy, it reminds me of that whole lacrosse college team, with the black stripper and all that. It turned out that was made up. There's this real desire